Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Adobe Live. Thank you for bearing with us. We are here with Fergie. Hello, Fergie. How are you doing today?
Hey, good. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It feels like a Monday. We got a little bit of a late start in stream. So thank you everybody in the chat who's hanging out. Thiago, Laura, Voodoo Val's keeping it fresh in there. Let us know where you're joining from. We definitely have an international stream today. Fergie, you're joining us from all the way across the pond. So I'm really excited to get started with you. Just really quick, if anybody, because it is Monday, the start of a brand new week, if anybody in the chat has missed any of the XD creative streams, make sure to tune in right after the stream, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, to watch those replays. But let's just get started because we kind of had a late start. Fergie, I want to know everything about you. Please tell me what you can and how are you and who are you?
Yeah, sure. So I did throw a little presentation together in XD, of course. So hi, everybody. Alexis, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be on this live with you. Hi, everybody. For those of you who know me, thank you so much for joining. If you don't, my name is Rebecca Ferguson, but please just call me Fergie, both of which, are singers' names. I don't sing, not talented in that way, but I'm talented in design. So there we go, not to be confused with any singers. So I'll just go through a little intro. I am a UX product designer based over in London, over in the UK. And I do quite a lot of things in the design community. So I actually presented a session at Adobe Max last year, and I'm really excited that I've been invited back this year. So yeah, TBC, can't announce that yet.
Secrets, we love secrets.
Yeah, exactly, super secret, can't tell you anything, lock and key. I'm also a mentor, and I mentor designers and give sort of really constructive portfolio reviews, hence the topic for today's stream and tomorrow's stream. Obviously it's a two-parter, and I've been sort of mentoring designers and junior designers for quite some time now, and portfolios are always this thing that just kind of always comes up. Everybody wants to know how to do the best portfolio.
That's awesome and super poignant. And then if anybody's in the chat, this is someone who you want. This stream is all about getting your portfolio together. And, I'm really excited for you for this stream. I actually, when I saw what you were creating, I was like, this is gonna be perfect for live. Everybody here is always trying to ask questions of what my portfolio should look like. So everybody ask your questions about that portfolio site right now. We can get into it with the stream.
Yeah, definitely. Fire all the questions at me. I'm also a bit of an educator, so I teach UX and the design process to folks who want to have a career change. So this is just, just a little bit of all the different things that I do. This beautiful University of Greenwich is where everything started. I did a degree in graphic and digital design, and from there, not to give away too much the age, but iPhones were a big thing when I was at uni. I was like, I think this is going to go somewhere. So jumped on that bandwagon.
Good intuition with that.
Yeah. So this is just a little shot that I put together because I myself don't have a good portfolio right now. So this is, a little bit selfish that I'm doing my portfolio or showing you all how to improve yours. But I have been in UX for over 11 years now. I've worked for all kind of industries, mainly because I am in consulting, which I really enjoy the variety of. So I've sort of seen firsthand how a bad user experience doesn't just affect client's audience and the users. It can affect internal teams and morale and brand recognition and all these kind of things. So it's more important than what we might first think.
Absolutely.
And at the moment, by day, I am a lead experience designer at ThoughtWorks in London. And ThoughtWorks is a super awesome company, global consultancy. Check them out online. They're always, like, in terms of tech and everything, there's some really amazing minds, like people here. A lot of the thought workers have written books on things like microservices and things that are very, very techy. So it's amazing place to be in.
Yeah, so we're having a little bit of a tech issue right now. So chat, we will be right back in about 2 minutes. Hello, everyone. We're back. Fergie with Fergie,
Gosh.
and we're doing it. We're doing it. And welcome back. Let's just get going with this beautiful stream, learning all about the mastermind, Rebecca Ferguson. But Rebecca, Fergie, let's just get back. Let's just go directly back into the stream here.
Sure. Let's just jump into it. Those who know me, you know me. Those who don't, hi. Really sorry for this technical glitch. So let's just get into the brief of what we're going to do today. So we're going to create a personal portfolio site, as we mentioned in the intro. And what I'll do is go over what makes a great portfolio and how you can properly structure it so that somebody looking at your work for the first time who doesn't know about your project, wasn't involved with your project, can clearly understand exactly what you've done and your skill sets and your strengths. So today I'm introducing what we're doing. We're going to gather some inspiration. We're going to draw up a sitemap, create a sample user flow, structure a case study. So I'll go through all the key things that we need for that. And we can start wireframing. And then tomorrow we'll finish up with the wireframes, add in our project work. So I'll use a few of my own Behance projects for this as a demonstration. We're also going to be editing a few things in Photoshop tomorrow. We're going to apply the visual styling and then do some simple prototyping on top once everything is nicely built together.
Amazing.
All right. I am not in a cloud document, so I'm going to stay with this local document. And I'm just going to go ahead into this plugins panel and go to one of my absolute favorites, which is called Whiteboard. Because they have some great things to get us started with that sitemap.
I love this plugin. This is by far one of the best plugins. I can't believe I didn't realize it was here the whole time, but it's so great for anybody who just loves to do some early brainstorming and wants to keep it all in your XD document. Everything that could go up on a whiteboard you'll find in this awesome plugin.
Yeah, I'm just going to move this because it's pasted it all the way up there. Alrighty, so this is just a sample kind of diagram that we can turn into a sitemap. Just going to rename a few things, delete the little bits that we don't need.
This is great. So anybody who's watching, we had a little glitch, but we're here creating a personal portfolio website, and we're kicking it off with some early creation, early idea generation, some research, some structuring of the site. And anybody who has any questions about that portfolio site and how to get started and any issues you have with your own, please let us know in the chat. We are here to talk about it, very open space around creation and how to showcase yourself. I know I have some questions for you, Fergie, about yourself and branding and how you brand yourself, but I'm sure we can get into that later.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
All questions welcome.
Anika says, I love a good mind map. Yes. You love a good mind map.
Hey, Annika, I'm so happy you could join. She's a good buddy of mine.
Oh, nice.
All right, so I just wanted to start off by showing a few things of inspiration. So this is a case study from Alfredo. He's just somebody I know who I did a portfolio review with. And I got his permission and everything to share this evening. But this is one of his projects that is just so well structured that I wanted to share with everybody, just to give you a really quick idea of different things that you should be putting in a case study. So a bit about his background. He's a graphic designer turned UX designer. So he has all of the design skills, visual and UX. So you can see he just takes you through everything he's done from beginning to end, from research through the design and interviews and just everything. It's quite a long case study, but we'll go through a few things and I'll tell you my secret sauce structure that we can use. That means that you're not overwhelming any of the readers, but you're also giving them everything that they need to see within your project.
Love it. Beautiful, beautiful. structuring of a case study there.
Yeah. And then just with creating our site, the first thing we're going to obviously have is that sort of home page. So the home page, things that we're going to want to make sure we include over here are, oops, let me just copy paste a text block. We're going to want to give an introduction. I think that's something, really important that we have on the home page. It's not just going straight into your projects, let the viewers and the readers know who you are and what you do and why you do it and how you do it, things like that. So we can put a little kind of intro statement together, a little bit, a bit sort of maybe a preview of some projects and the areas that you work in, and maybe a sort of like contact details or something like that towards maybe the bottom of the page. A portfolio site doesn't need to be super complicated or complex. You don't need loads and loads of pages. You just need those right bits of information.
Absolutely.
So, where did that go? Okay. So we'll have a homepage, and then what I'll do is just remove these ones, and this will be case study 1. So I'm just going to use what we've got rather than redraw everything.
Looks like Alfredo's in the chat.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
So glad you could make it.
We're big fans of your case study.
Yes.
And Mayor asks, are you using the whiteboard plugin? Sure is. Definitely check it out.
Nice. So certain things that you want to make sure we're covering with our case study. Let's go ahead and folks in the chat, feel free to chime in. We're going to detail down all of the things that should make a great case study, but I also want to hear from you what you think should be included. So fire away in the chat. Start out with an intro.
And so you picked 3 case studies. Do you feel like that's plenty to showcase on your portfolio right away? Yeah, how did you come up with that number?
I mean, I wouldn't go more than 5. 5 is quite a lot. It depends what you're showing in your portfolio. If you have a lot of projects that are all really very similar, you don't just want to show sort of like 5 projects that are all very samey. You want to show, how diverse your skills are. So show, a mobile app project, show a web design project, show different things you could do. Maybe you did a research project, or maybe you redesigned Netflix or something. The portfolio sites are not just for when we're working with clients. It can be our own passion projects as well, which is what I'll demonstrate with the work that I'm going to be putting in. It's just my own passion projects. So, you don't have to stress and worry that you don't have clients or anything like that, which I think a lot of people do worry about.
They absolutely do. They absolutely do. I feel like it's one of the most considered or thought about factors in making your portfolios. What do I share? Am I not sharing enough? What do future employers want to see versus what I believe, how I want to showcase myself? It's a very, it's a push and pull. And I don't know any one designer who feels content with their portfolio. If they have even, with 1 year experience to 10 years experience, everybody still knows they want their portfolio to change and update with them. So it's these portfolio sites are they're very close to home. They hit very close to home, I think, for all designers, especially designers right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's one of those things when we make a portfolio, it could be, because we're interviewing for a new role or something, or to gain a new client. It's that thing that kind of your portfolio is, you do it once and then it just sits there. I know for myself, I haven't done redone my portfolio in about 2 years, just because I haven't necessarily needed to, which is quite bad. But finding a manageable way to add projects is probably sensible than doing these mass updates every year or so.
Yeah, that's kind of the trend, right? You update it when you need to, but how do you And maybe this is just a good case study for a new portfolio site kind of generator or builder, something that, and I think Behance helps fill kind of that void as well, right? Kind of updating it as you go.
Definitely.
But yeah, how do you have your portfolio site grow with you as a designer? Your need, it's a very need dependent type of place.
Yeah,
let's
definitely.
see. Let's see. You got a compliment, Fergie, on your blouse, by the way. It is lovely, I have to say.
Thank you. It's like, I better look smart.
She is the designer. She's got to show it as well. So that's a part of it.
Definitely. So what I'm just doing here, because I realize I'm just like typing away, is I'm putting some sort of prompts for what we can put in each area here. So when I'm doing like an intro or an overview, depending on what terminology people prefer, things you want to include in that are things like, okay, who is this design solution or product for? Who are the users or the audience or the customers, depending on whether it's something digital, something physical, kind of note all these things in the intro without it being, like War and Peace, you need to keep it quite condensed. So it's maybe like a paragraph or something, so that somebody could look at that and then decide if it's a case study that for them is worth reading based on what they're interested in for hiring you for, and things like that.
Yeah.
Another good prompt is, what were the business goals, or what were the user needs, or what were the pain points you're trying to resolve or solve? Any problem statement that may have been written as a bit of a kind of hypothesis, or a bit of a, when you write a problem statement, it's kind of, okay, this is what we're hoping to solve and achieve. And you could start to even delve into a little bit of research insights, which kind of ties into the user needs and pain points. So you can sort of say, you found out, however you might have found out, whatever your research methods might have been, that users were dropping off a certain product, or whatever it might be, and just kind of tie this all together to just give a really nice kind of quick intro to what it is that the case study is going to be talking about.
I love the research insight kind of intro there. That would be really interesting. But essentially, you're just setting up, you're building out you're telling a story, right? And that's kind of what every case study does. And I when I was in school, that was kind of the biggest skill that some of the professors pushed, was regardless of where in design you work or how the industry evolves, the strongest tool in your toolbox is the ability to tell story. And I love how you're structuring this out for us, kind of like just like that. And there's so many ways to start your stories, right? So it's kind of like it's kind of what you're laying out there.
Yeah, you're right. There's so many ways of doing it. So, I'm not saying this is the be all and end all by all means. Take the bits that you like, leave the bits that you don't like. These are all just the kind of prompts that I use when I'm putting mine together. So moving on to like the next section, I would sort of start to detail out what my role was. So I'll say, what were my responsibilities? So was I doing just the UX design? Was I doing the research? Was I also doing the UI design, testing, all those different kind of subcategories that you can work on as a UX designer, or as a graphic designer. Maybe you've done some illustration, or you've done, typography, all the different types of things. Just, detailing exactly what you did. And then team collaboration. I think this point, I kind of want to put it in like bold, italic, and underline, because it's something that it's something that I see missing quite a lot when I'm looking at portfolios. Is it's okay if you've worked with a team on a project and you didn't do everything yourself. That's totally okay. We're not these unicorns that do everything. So yeah, mention what teammates you worked with. Did you work with a few developers, or a business analyst, product owners? Yeah, even if it's a personal project, were you working with anybody else? Was it a collaborative one? Tag team with anybody? Similarly, if it's
That is so important. It's so important to kind of show where, not only to describe kind of like the project itself and it kind of showcasing your skill in the project, but how you work with a team. We all know nothing really created in a vacuum, or nothing really large happens in a vacuum by with one person. Sometimes, but that person, you know, how does a person work with the team in long term? It's different. So I'm always interested in how people kind of weigh out their role. What do you think would be the best way for somebody with a personal project kind of be honest about what their skills are around this? Maybe if someone who doesn't have any big work experience, and how do you think they should frame out their roles with like maybe a project they got in school or something?
Yeah, I mean, we've all been there. That's all of us once we've graduated or when we've left college and things. It's totally fine to be honest and say, okay, you've done this project and maybe you have just redesigned an existing website because you felt that there was something that was maybe nagging at you that you felt wasn't right or could be better. It's okay to say, you've created this project because you felt the existing experience could be better. It's okay if you've not done user research or asked people or anything like that, because obviously you might not know who the users or the customers are. Although I do encourage everybody to use social media for this. I think Twitter is absolutely amazing for that kind of thing. True story, I was doing an Adobe Creative Jam, and it was all about creating this farming app. Like, I don't know any farmers. I'm in central London, definitely no farming friends. Put a Google form quickly up on Twitter with some hashtags. Say, hey, anybody working in farming and agriculture, can you answer these like 5 questions? And I got 5 replies, which I was expecting, 0. So there are ways of doing something if you want to. You don't have to. You don't have to do everything, But just be upfront when it's those sort of personal projects, and maybe you're a graduate. Say that you focused on the design side of it, and that's totally cool. Yeah,
I love what you said. It's around, because I see a lot of those types of projects come our way, especially through Behance or through the Adobe Live Discord. A lot of people really wanting to recreate something, and or maybe we're given a prompt, just say it, through the XD Creative Challenge, and really wanting to showcase that project in their portfolio, right? And I love what you said around saying it's okay to want something to be better. It's okay to say, I want this to be better, and here's how I can make it better. I think that's a great quote to kind of live by, especially when you're starting out. Or like, here's what I can do. I think this could be better this way. That's such an asset. Hello, everybody in the chat who's just joining us, by the way. I think we have some new faces. We have El Reyes. Hello. Just a hello and a wave. Love.
Oh, hey, Reyes.
Emoji. Love it. Love all the people. Please let us know where you're joining us from, and what time of day it is. And are you about to wind down? Are you watching us? Does this feel like your last thing you do? Maybe you have a little sip of wine, or are you waking up? Is this kind of your helpful inspiration for the morning? I know you're towards the end of your night, aren't you, Fergie?
Yes, it is now 8:30 in the evening. So
I love a little late night stream.
I'm such a night owl.
You have Brooklyn in the house, Sri Lanka,
awesome.
Texas. Hello, everybody. We are worldwide.
Okay, so the next section I would say to look into with the case study is detailing out the process. So just kind of step by step, like, what did you do from start to finish? And you don't have to be super prescriptive with it, but just tell that story. It's really, storytelling is a big part of being a designer, I believe. because we're sort of painting that picture for somebody else of, you know, what we're going to create for them or what we have done in the past. Storytelling is a good thing to get used to doing. It definitely comes into play with creating portfolio and case studies. So you want to sort of tell that story of detailing what you did, but not, you know, every minute little detail. You know, you've got to keep it at a sensible level so that your readers and your viewers don't sort of get halfway through and just think, oh, it's too much, and give up and walk away from reading it. You need to give just enough. And you want to include some visuals to go with it. You know, if you've brainstormed with sticky notes on your bedroom wall or your dining room wall or wherever it might be, or maybe you have a whiteboard, take pictures of that along the way. I mean, it's a really good habit to get into, just for like looking back at as notes. So if you're that type of person, if you take pictures of things or you work on different surfaces, then include those images as well, because it's another sort of key way of showing that you can go through that design thinking process, which as designers, a lot of us do kind of subconsciously without necessarily knowing that's exactly what we're doing. But it's a great thing to be able to include that design managers look for, or hiring agents might look for as well. Sketches is something that it's so simple that we can include, just to show those really rough early ideas. You know, don't feel like you need to get into being pixel perfect right from the get-go. Throw those sketches in there. Don't just show, you know, the beautiful final renders. That's really boring. That doesn't tell the story. Tell the story of where it started and where it went.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Dominique says, on paper, wireframes for the win. Yes. Absolutely.
Paper prototyping.
Paper prototyping. There's so many ways to do it now with, you know, design. There's even design kits for wireframes. But I think there's there's nothing like just having, you know, your sketch pad out, or, you know, a whiteboard, just getting messy. I think you're always going to have the best result with the very messy whiteboard. Messier the whiteboard, more beautiful the product, typically.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Nothing ever starts out beautiful. You know, we all start out with messy ideas.
That's true.
So then, yeah, what I sort of typically finish off my portfolio with is, case study with is then the outcome. So, you know, take them on that whole journey. Don't just straight away be like, hey, beautiful thing, and then this is how I did it. You know, lead them on that journey, like you're telling a story, and it's, you know, you're riding through the woods like Little Red Riding Hood or something, to get it just right. No, wait, that's Goldilocks. Mixing up all my nursery rhymes today.
I think it worked. I was there for that. I knew exactly what you meant there.
I'm glad. So you kind of want to do like a little summary of what that outcome was. So did you do some user testing? Are there any kind of usage data or stats from analytics? If it's, you know, something that's been built for a client, that might be, you know, have this plumbed into the back. You've worked with developers. Google Analytics is something that's actually really easy to add to a website if you build websites. It's just kind of a copy and paste, a little snippet that can then track all the usage data, which is really nice. Or there's other tools like Hotjar that do really amazing heat maps and things like that. So you can see where people are clicking and where they're looking and not looking. You know, start to put all of these things in at the end to really summarize, you know, the journey you've been on in creating whatever it is that the project is, and saying, okay, well, this is the outcome. It went to market, it didn't go to market, it's been, you know, paused or something like that. And share those prototypes and the visuals, especially when it's something like a digital product. Having a prototype for somebody to click around and play in is something that will give them like a really strong feeling towards your work, and they'll feel they get to know your work a bit more. And it's a way for them to see how much have you fleshed out? How much have you really thought about? Just another way of us being able to, project all of our skills. So prototypes and visuals, a good combination of the two.
Yes, absolutely. And it's something I haven't seen a lot of, but I don't know why, that really connects for me was seeing, maybe some user testing specs on something, maybe something you can't, maybe not show everything, but that is a great way to kind of showcase an outcome other than, a visually stimulating outcome, which is always fun. But is there, where there's usability, showcasing usability that's such a good idea. And I feel like I don't see enough of that. So I'm glad you brought that up.
And then a little bonus thing that it's not, there's no right or wrong way of putting a case study together, but something that you might want to do is also add in a summary. And I think this is definitely something great if you're more of a junior designer or you're doing this based on a personal project. Give a little reflection, would there be anything you would do differently? Is there anything that maybe you change when you're looking back at it when it's finished? Did you just design something and not do research or testing? And would you want to do that kind of next time around? It's okay to write that kind of thing. It's not admitting any faults. It's showing that, you have that growth space as a designer to grow into. And, perhaps you have the interest in doing that, but maybe you don't know how yet because you've not had a chance to have the experience, or you've not been taught, or you've not had, had a chance to learn, which is all okay. We all start at zero at some point, and we all have to learn. So, no one should ever feel any kind of way,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Your reflection on your project is your reflection on the project, regardless of where you're at. Actually, we had a really great question about user testing, and I'm wondering if we can kind of, and I think it just kind of got spurred up because we were talking about outcomes. Voodoo Val asked about running into issues with user testing and not getting information you need, and actually it kind of segues really well into kind of like, if you don't have, maybe it is just the beginning edge of a project and you don't have maybe what you wanted or you needed, Voodoo Val asked specifically to you, how do you handle when you don't get what you need for user testing? And I'm gonna, if you want to keep talking about it through the lens of through a case study you want to showcase, please do. But I thought it was a great question that we should, maybe it's a good time to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. User testing can be so hit and miss, whether it's a passion personal project, whether it's a client project. It really can be, such a crazy time. And there are times where you don't get back what you expect. We kind of go into user testing with a rough idea of what the answers might be, but we're not the users, so it's only ever really a kind of judgment call. And I've definitely had times where it's been a complete sort of 180, where I've been going out to users for a client to discuss with them, a new system and app that was going to be put in place for them. And the whole conversation with multiple users in different locations was, please don't make us use this kind of app. Like, the process we have is very, it's the way it is for a reason, because they have, very intermittent connectivity. So it's very unreliable. So the fact that they use, phone calls from landlines instead of using a mobile app is because, well, there's no service where they are, which could massively affect everything that they do just all day as their job role. And what came out of that was just that, okay, well, the project just needs to not go ahead. And luckily it was, more of a discovery phase. But the client was really happy because we just essentially saved them a lot of money that they would have wasted if they had built
Incredible.
it. So
that's incredible. Yeah. Too often we hear the opposite of the story, which is like they weren't comfortable, so we had to try to make them comfortable, and then through the product. That's a great. And actually, someone asked earlier about clients, and again, I don't want to take away from this layout, Korean sitemap, but Incredible that what an incredible thing to remember with user testing, right? It doesn't always have to lead into creation. Sometimes it is just a great way to answer the initial question. So that's awesome. That's interesting. And it's so like anti kind of what what designers want to do, which is like fix everything and create. But sometimes you have to take a step back and like, you know what, this doesn't need to exist, which is the sign of a brilliant designer. So thanks for bringing that into our minds, Fergie.
No worries. And yeah, there might be times where you do testing and maybe it's low engagement, or again, it's not just not getting back enough, maybe. And it just means that you have to kind of keep trying to push out, maybe use different channels. Like I said, I'm a big user of social media. I'm on all kinds of social media. Social media is great. You can put a poll up or a question up on your Instagram story and get loads of answers back, because it's so low effort. It's just a quick tap. It's not taking time or energy from anybody's day. And use the right hashtags, and it hopefully surfaces in the right places. Same with Facebook groups. Facebook groups are amazing little fonts and wells of information.
They're incredible spaces to get a great sense of the pulse of a subject matter, or reaching out into groups. Just understanding kind of like the general sense of where people stand on an issue, or thoughts around a product or a subject. It's a great, people forget, you pay people who are researchers, spend a lot of time and effort trying to get that information, and people and money to get people in a room to kind of understand where that pulse is. So I agree completely. And I think like you use it a lot. Do you use it a lot with your client work as well? Or is it more of a, when you're asking, it's a little more disguised, or you're a little more outward about it?
No, it's definitely quite open and honest. A lot of the time with clients, they have, obviously they have their own channels, so I don't have to kind of obviously do it on my own. But clients will have their own sort of marketing campaigns and those kind of like email list databases that they're quite happy for you to send an email out to, with like a link to a form if you want to do some research or test it that way. And there's also loads of different platforms online that you can link to with a prototype, and it kind of runs itself and just records everything the user's doing, and then you get these kind of nice reports back out at the end. I think a lot of businesses, or larger businesses, do have these ways of connecting and reaching out to their customers and clients, which is definitely worth using. Don't think that you have to start from zero, unless it's completely new. But there's always somebody to ask.
Exactly. There's always, always ask.
Exactly.
That's great.
All right, I'm just going to collapse these up because we've got our list of what goes into a case study. And I've just added an extra page because you might want to add your resume or your CV, depending on where you are in the world. You might call it differently. And that's always nice, even if it's a page or you click it and somebody can download a PDF with your sort of work history and things like that. Or your education or skills, and whatever you might have in there. So as simple as this is really all we need for a basic personal portfolio site.
And we talked about how like that simple, early on, you're like, you don't need much, but really when you get into it, this is a lot. This is a lot to think about for when you're recreating and revisiting your case studies. And a lot of designers and creatives, there's always that always really nerve-wracking to revisit work. I don't know about you, but it is kind of work I've done like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Like I'm gonna go look at it though. Let's go look at it together. And you're like, okay. So I did not align any of this. Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, I've definitely done that.
Right. Yeah. So it's a lot of revisiting and restructuring. And I actually had a question about, brand, how much of a portfolio is really just branding of yourself? And if that, and in general, like, is that the case? Or do you feel like that's kind of what it's tied to? Or is it more, you think it's more formulaic in that sense because you know exactly what like employers want to see? Like, how do you kind of look at your creation of your site?
Yeah, I think it's something that as designers, we do get caught up in the whole needing to brand ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the beginning I was rebranding myself every 6 months because I wasn't happy with whatever logo I made myself. And I know friends have done the same. But it's really not that important. I think what's really important, especially if you're not, if you're not a brand designer necessarily, maybe you're a UX designer, don't feel that you have to create your own brand or have your own brand. Having a site that just has a nice, clean and simple, aesthetic to it that highlights your work and showcases what you can do is totally fine. It's, I don't think I ever, when I'm looking through portfolios when we're hiring, I don't think I ever look to see, well, hang on, they have a logo and they don't. It doesn't matter. It's like, do I know whose website this is? Is their name on it? Great, that's important. Make sure your name, your name is there, like as a site kind of page heading. That's really important, especially if you maybe don't have a custom URL.
That's a great note for everybody. Is your name on there? and not something creative and fun? Like, is your actual name? Can we contact you?
Yeah, exactly. It's always the simpler things that you sort of overlook. So we move this up or down, and we'll start doing a user flow. Lost my train of thought. Yeah, with the brand, I've definitely seen all the different extremes of having a beautiful brand and having a logo and having a very particular look and feel and style, but don't even in your project work, don't feel that you have to be true to one sort of design style. You don't have to make it that all your work is neumorphism or skeuomorphism or glassmorphism. You don't have to stick to one thing. You can do as many as you like that's relevant for the project that you're doing. Something might need a dark UI, something might need a light UI. Depends, right? And it just, if you can do both, then even stronger contender for applying for things.
Yeah, that idea of who is stronger, it always kind of comes back down to what skills you have and how are you able to showcase them, because at the end of the day, that's exactly what the job is, right? So there's a lot of I know this stirred up a couple of things in the chat a little while ago, and even right now Reverb Mike asks a little more bluntly, something you did 15 years ago, is that going to be necessary to show? So even like something 5 years ago is going to be a little bit more outdated, especially in these spaces in this time. But so how do you know what to show, I guess, is the simplest way I can ask that question. Not just through case studies, but I guess through we kind of talked a little bit about your skills, but I don't know if that, maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. I think with that sort of thing, if I'm getting the question right, like knowing what to show, my answer to that would be, make sure your portfolio contains the type of work that you want to do in the future, that you want to continue to do. So if you have an old project that was, I don't know, maybe it was, it depends on what you do. Maybe it was just a really boring kind of website for, I'm not going to call an industry because I don't want any hate, but maybe it was just something you weren't interested in. Don't put it in, because you don't want that to be the project that gets a recruiter or a company's attention. You're like, oh, they've done that thing before, they could do it again for us.
Wow.
It's, if you've worked in, I'll use finance as an example. I love finance. I've done so many years of finance. If I want to do more of that, then I'm going to make sure my portfolio screams that I am super specialist in the financial services industry, whether it be a mobile app or a website or branding. It could be whatever it is that you do. If you don't want to work in a certain space, you know, maybe just turn down the volume on that work, or take it off, or put it in the bottom of the list. The type of work you want to do.
Really good. That's really, I mean, that really should be the title of the stream. Because that's the best thing in terms of like creating a portfolio to remember. And I love that you just said it plainly. Just showcase what you want to do. You know, don't showcase work that you're not in love with and don't want to do. And if your heart's not there, your energy and your mind's not going to be there. So why showcase that? So that's a great way to constrain. And actually, John in the chat said a lot of designers can't create constraints on themselves, which is a really interesting statement to kind of make during this conversation. But like, I love it because that's a great way to start, or that's one way to. I think that's the name of the game as a professional designer, is how to create those constraints with yourself. And that also goes into what you enjoy doing and creating. You know, I mean, and everybody's into a lot of things, especially when you start out. Like everything's pretty cool. Okay. Exactly. So you know, give yourself a couple of years to figure out what you love. And I mean, that's the beauty of starting out with anything. But anyways, I just love I love that statement, you know, what you want to do, what you want to be doing in the future.
Yeah. And like you say, you know, you don't have to do everything. You know, it's okay if somebody approaches you for a job and you're like, oh, but that's really not what I want to go into. It's okay to say no, because it's not going to waste your time. It's not going to waste the other person's time. And I think that's something that, you know, it takes a lot of kind of courage and confidence to build up to get to saying no and feeling okay with like saying no to an interview or no to a potential role. But, you know, in the long run, it benefits you if you don't just say yes to everything. You know, say yes to the stuff that you love and that you want to do. That's
power. That's some power you give yourself, being able to say no. Mm-hmm.
Wish I knew that when I was a junior.
Oh man.
Wish I was better at saying no.
Oh man. Gosh. I mean, a lot of seniors I know have a hard time saying no. So it's just people. Creatives. I think creatives, when you want to, when your brain is programmed to, you know, see things and make them better, and see things that are, I want to create and make things beautiful. Hard to say no. Especially when someone comes to you and says, I know you like to fix things. Can you fix this?
Yeah. I was getting that at work for a long time, like thrown into the fire projects that just really needed fixing, that were really going down the wrong road. It's like, hey, go over there. And I'm like, oh, can I just join a nice project like it's not on fire?
Sure. And so currently you do majority, a lot of your work is consulting, right? Is this and how did you find that to be, you know, how do you find that currently versus you know, working with teams and a little bit more? Actually, I don't know exactly how you got in there. I'd love to know how you got into consulting specifically.
So I've most of my like career history has been in agency or consulting firms. Apart from one stint that I did in investment banking, which was amazing and interesting, but very repetitive. So that's how I knew that for me, being in-house somewhere and doing that one type of product and, you know, scaling it over years, I knew that for me, that wasn't exciting enough. I wanted to do lots of different things, you know, have that variety, which I think you definitely get more if you're at an agency or a consulting firm. So I went into consulting, I guess kind of by chance. I was kind of headhunted on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, if you're not on it, amazing platform for finding work. I think I've found like all of my roles on LinkedIn almost. Because people can find you as well, which is really helpful. But I got into consulting. My first firm was actually Deloitte Digital. So huge, you know, one of the big four. They have their reputations. And it was amazing because it was such a huge company the client names they have on the books, the scale of the projects, the teams that you get to work in. I fell in love with that. For me, that was amazing that I could be on one client project for 6 months to do maybe a discovery, or to do just a certain amount of sprints to help them get to the position they need to be in, or a year plus on a delivery project where we're designing a new product for a client and with a client. A lot of my work excuse me, a lot of my work is not necessarily being like a standalone consultant. It's about going into those client teams, seeing where they're at, supporting them, kind of fitting in with them, and working together and collaborating, rather than just kind of being a external party, which I think a lot of the time is how consulting can be viewed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just the opportunities of experience to get in consulting has been amazing, and that's how I've worked in so many industries. I've kind of done a bit of everything, which is just really great, because then you get to also learn about what you do and don't like doing. So yeah,
that's awesome. That's incredible. Yeah, that's so desired by so many designers, and also is a very intense way of working, and maybe isn't for everyone. So it's depending, and again, this is something that you had with experience, is like, what makes you want to create? You need the variety, the diversity. Your brain wants to learn about variety of things. Some designers are more, I would like to stay here and grow this thing and build upon it and build this one house. And you're like, I want to travel. Let's go around. Let's check out all these things. I definitely agree. I agree with the idea of needing to kind of let your mind see all the different places first.
It's okay, if you learn it's not for you, that's everything is okay. There's no option or road or anything like that is like not okay. Like, everybody is different.
It's true. Don't believe the hype with any with your with your career. There's no one way it's supposed to happen, what you're supposed to be learning. So if anybody is just joining us, actually, I'm going to take a beat and just kind of address anybody who's just joined the stream. We're about an hour in. Thank you again for joining us. We are here with Fergie, and we are creating a personal portfolio website. And this first stream is really going into gathering inspiration, doing some research, laying out a site map, just kind of understanding what we need for the rest of this project. Fergie will be here today and tomorrow. And so we're very excited that she's here. And again, we're all talking about your own personal portfolio. So a lot of these questions, please keep them coming. They've been awesome so far. I've written some down that have kind of come, and I'll bring them back in. So if you're asking, we haven't answered it, or I have them. And yeah, so what are we doing right now, for anybody who's just joining us?
Yeah, sure. So let me zoom out here a little bit. So we've gone through and created a sitemap. Again, no real right or wrong way of drawing this. This is not strictly, whatever, it's fine. Usually it's the other way around and goes down, but it can go sideways too. So we've done a sitemap of, we're going to have a homepage. We've got a few notes about what would go into the homepage, and we obviously know that we need to create case studies for our portfolio. So around four case studies is a pretty good number. I wouldn't really go anything, because they're not all necessarily going to be looked at. And you should make sure you have a kind of diverse range of projects. If you have that, if you have that armory, if you have those skills, show that you can do all the different things, rather than them being all very repetitive, because then people are more likely to look at all of them rather than just kind of skim and scroll through. We would then have noted down the structure of the case study. So for every project in the portfolio, this is kind of how I would go about structuring them, and this is all the different information that I would include. to make sure that I'm telling, storytelling to my reader and my viewer exactly what it is that I may have done for this project. And now moving down here, I'm just creating a little flowchart. So these are both come from the amazing whiteboard plugin in the plugins panel. If you don't have it, highly recommend it. It is one of my huge go-tos. And I'm just creating a bit of a user flow. So if we imagine our user is someone who's potentially going to hire us or work with us, then I'm going to kind of create this flow, which is similar to a user journey, but more of a, we're trying to understand rather than page by page and step by step, we're trying to understand in more of a decision process. Are they getting what they need? Are they getting what we want them to get? So for example, this one, I've started out that they're viewing our homepage. So they've come to it from wherever it's linked from. And they're going to read our intro that we said was really important for our homepage. And from that, I'm going to use this diamond shape. So the different shapes of a flow diagram mean different things. So we have our start here with this kind of like pill shape. The boxes are just steps, and then the diamonds are decision points. So after they've read my intro, do they know what I do? Has it been really clear? If not, then obviously that's a bit of a problem, because I don't want them to just close my site or navigate away. So I've got a few things here. Why do they not know or not understand what I do? Is it that it's unclear? Is it sort of, have I embellished my wording too much? Which I know is definitely my bad habit. I sort of add loads of wordy flourishes, and I just need to say things very simply. A lot of the time, simple is best. And if they have understood what we do, great. But let's just double check. There's nothing that you've missed off. You've not said it too simply. So once they've understood what we do, we're then going to make sure, okay, well, can they find our work easily? So this kind of will relate to our navigation and how we sketch that up when we wireframe. Having links on the top of the page is the simplest, clearest, kind of fail-safe way. They can't really miss it. Again, naming things in just a really clean and simple way. So instead of saying, I don't know what else you could call, projects, but if you gave it another name or another term that's not kind of commonly known, it's quite easy to miss. So it's fine by saying that it's, your work, your projects, or having it as portfolio. Use the language that everybody knows for success. We're going to use this for our benefit.
So many, so I'm just going to, as we're going through, there's so many. I was just looking at this flow chart, and I just love that we're kind of you've made it a decision point around, do people know what you do is one, and it is the most important. So what a great way to kind of remind yourself, and also utilize, this, you can usability test your own site. You don't have to guess. You can ask, you can poll the crowd, and you're reminding yourself and having it. This is what the beauty of flowcharts can be, just kind of really is a map for your own mind to guide yourself through what you're creating. So I love that you did that.
Yeah, I think it's just really useful for also, I think all of us have, a bad habit sometimes of diving straight into designing a page or designing what this is going to look like without thinking about the structure or the flow of it. So what I like to do when I'm doing a user flow is make sure that I've got kind of ways of catching people so that they don't necessarily navigate away from my site. I created one of these on stream the other weekend, just on my own Behance page. If anyone wants to look at it, feel free. But it was for somebody who wanted to, for example, buy a service from me. So I went through a similar flow of how can I make sure that they don't just drop off and think that I don't offer what it is that they need. and it's just like little things where you can just catch them. And I say catch, not actually catch, but there's little ways that you can prompt them to stay, or if they think you don't offer what it is they want, maybe you say, okay, well, hey, I actually do custom packages as well, so tell me what it is that you want.
Right.
And they could be like, oh, okay, fill out that kind of form or something, start that conversation, book in that discovery call for 20 minutes, which means you're not kind of letting a customer walk out the door kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Not literally catch, right? Imagining a net, right? Net. But I see what you're saying. And actually, Laura had a great question in the chat. What kind of test would you run in order to evaluate people, to understand the purpose of your site? You kind of went into that in a small example for yours specifically. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, to test your site, I would share the link with, you could share it with other designers, you could share it with friends, you could just, again, Twitter is an amazing little sphere of online folks that, are quite, Twitter I find is quite an inquisitive sort of space. Everyone's very curious. So you can always kind of put it out on Twitter and be like, hi, this is my site. I really want some feedback about the feeling you get from it, or give them a task. Hey, can you successfully add this to the basket? Can you successfully find X project page? And I think it's nice when you ask people that know you as well. So ask friends and family. They're not obviously necessarily your users and the people that will go on your site, but they'll be able to tell you if the site best portrays you and best sort of feels like you, or if something is coming off too cold, or it's maybe not showing your personality as obviously as they know you. I think that's always a good soundboard.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think the name of the game there is share it, right? Like that's something that I think a lot of people fall into when they're recreating or redesigning their portfolio or designing it in general, is you tend to keep it really close to your chest, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's not just the work you did, it's actually you. It's and it's a point of to help find jobs. It's a point to help so many things. Maybe even like maybe you're in grad school and you want to get like some sort of grant. Like it's a big, really important place. And so to share it is always very intimidating to people, I feel, from what I've noticed. I feel like I haven't seen a lot of my design friends' portfolios, or I haven't. It's a hard thing to share.
Yeah,
especially when you're doing it from scratch or you're starting it again, and it's very exposing. So that's the advice is share it in a way that and you can start small with the share, or in a not less intimidating way. But it's important to share.
And friends are never really going to say anything that hurts you, and if they do, it's with love. It's always with love, right? So I would rather my friend rips apart something that I do than somebody else who's like respected in the design world or something like that. I think I'd be mortified if a design director or someone saw my portfolio on my site or whatever it might be and rips it apart. I think that's way more devastating.
It definitely is. And there's ranges to what you need, right, from different realms of people. But I love the idea of showing it and I love in general showing my design work to people who aren't designers, period. They're very discerning in a way that I'm always surprised by, right? Because they're always like, how do you not know how that works? And then you're like, oh wait, how would you know how that works? And definitely showing it to people outside of what your spaces you're normally comfortable in, while also making sure you have your network of designers that you're like, buddy, I need you to review this. I need you to like give it to me straight, but you're my friend. Don't destroy me. So it's a little bit of both. Stoney says they prefer kind honesty. Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think honesty is the best policy, as the saying goes. It's just whether, you know, if you have a preference of where it comes from. I think if you can take the honesty from clients or friends and family, that's great. You know, it's a great kind of, I don't want to use the word tolerance. Tolerance is the wrong word, but, you know, build up that that ability to be able to take constructive feedback. You know, it's not criticism, it's just feedback. And at the end of the day, it helps us grow and become better designers. So there's no such thing as bad feedback, really. Okay, so just to talk aloud with the flowchart that we've got going on. So we started with the first decision of, does our viewer know what it is that we do? And then can they easily get to our work? Again, yes, no. The things that we're sort of talking about, is it really clearly labeled or not? If they can, yay. And the next stage is just, are our case studies clearly labeled? You know, using things like tags. So if you're a multidisciplinary designer, tagging what is a UI project, what might be a branding project, what might be a product print, etc. Yeah, it's not always clear from just imagery. So I'd say always add like little tags or with filtering or something like that. So people can see what it is they want to see.
Awesome. Awesome. Great chart. Great flow chart.
All right. I think that's as much as we really need to do. There's not too much detail to get into with it. So I think we can go ahead and start wireframing. This is what we're here for. And I can never draw them by hand perfectly. So just going to adjust that. So we'll start off with our home page. And I'm just going to make sure we give it the scrolling space. Vertical scroll over here. And we said that we need to have an intro. We might want to give a preview of our projects. Maybe your personal portfolio site is more of a sort of a one-page design, so they can see everything, and then maybe drill down into case studies, which are on separate pages. That's okay. You know, you don't feel that you need to have loads of individual pages. I think if you can nice and succinctly put it on a nice sort of homepage, like, this is me and this is what I do, I think that's quite a successful way of doing that. And I just want to show everybody who, I mean, maybe people know already, maybe some folks don't, but to speed up our process here a little bit, we're going to get the Wireframes UI kit. So you can find this just by going to the File menu of XD, get UI kits, and then click on Wireframes. And it will take you to this fabulous Behance page that the wonderful folks at Adobe XD, part of the team, have created loads and loads of different screens. So we can download them and use them as building blocks. So
nice.
I'm going to go back in here because I already have that. So I'm just going to open it up. Dun -dun. Might be on the cloud. Let's have a look.
Yeah, the wireframe kits are really have gotten really nice over the past couple of years. You know, whereas what before it was like kind of just nice to have some extra assets that could just be plugged in. Now I see so many online just so beautifully made. I'm like, you know, at what point is it not a wireframe? But this one is really, I like the simplicity of this one actually, with the blue and the white.
Yeah. It just, you know, it keeps it what it is, you know, with wireframes, keeping them in sort of the blue and white, the grayscale, just keeps them at that low fidelity level that we need to just make sure that we're focusing on information architecture and hierarchy of everything. We're not focusing on, do the colors match perfectly? Is the imagery, you know, got the right filters and glossy effects and all these kind of things, you know, the mock-ups and all of that. We're not focusing on that first, focus on structure. So I can sort of give a little overview of what's in here, but you've got sort of the UI elements, and this is a bit more like if you imagine a design system, so it's like all the most basic components in their singular forms. So your navigation bars, buttons, toggles, checkboxes, radios, like everything. But the really nice thing that speeds up the process if you use this kit is that there are some things that are pre-built, like cards here, footers, but more so, I've got them all categorized. Ooh. So, you know, there's already a landing page section. So we could choose from one of these to put it on our page. And, you know, in like 5 minutes, you can really quickly stack a few of these things together and be like, okay, I think this is the overview of my page. And then go in and edit it and refine it and make it your own. So it's just the way I've really enjoyed working.
Yeah, it's really incredible. Actually, really get some things constructed together very quickly, and all right here, right within XD. You don't really have to go anywhere else.
Exactly. And they're all, you know, you can resize everything. You can, you know, with all the whole responsive layout. It's great. So, yeah, I'm just going to put in a few things that I think would make a good homepage. So, some kind of image. The intro, and then a call to action. So I typically, as soon as I kind of land on my website at the moment, I have a little intro like, hey, I'm Fergie and this is what I do. I'm a UX designer. I'm design obsessive and I do XYZ. So it's quite a good thing to put as your kind of headline if you didn't just want to say your name and UX designer or brand designer, you know, whatever it is that you are.
Yeah, the little blurb about yourself is always super interesting and kind of tricky to write. It's a little bit, it's essentially your elevator pitch. It's like the elevator pitch in 2021.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, learn more about me. You have to capture, it's and good copy is hard to find. I don't know, is that something you enjoy? Do you enjoy writing copy?
No.
Okay.
No.
There's two camps. You either love it or hate it. Really, there is no in between. There is no, oh yeah.
Yeah. Even just writing like a bio, which I'm pretty sure I have quite a few of them already, but every time I need to write a new one for an event or for something, I sort of sit here and I'm like, oh, gosh, for me, it's a very painful thing almost. And it really shouldn't be by now. I should just be cutting and pasting from having done it so many times.
I mean, no, but not really. You know, as designers, we're in form and structure. We're not in words. Words its own art form. That's why there's UX writers and copywriters, just writers, period. It's a skill. It's a skill in itself. So when you, I always say, make a friend who's really good at writing. Just like have a friend who's a really amazing photographer. Like always have both at your disposal to be like, hey, do you have a couple of minutes? Can I have some of your time? And then I just use that for years. Use whatever image I've got or captured with them or my friends have written.
Yeah. This is kind of one of my like newer elevator pitchy type taglines. It used to be way more complicated before. It used to be made, like, definitely wasn't an elevator pitch. It was you're going up a few floors for me to get out, like try and say what it was that I do. So this has been very much finessed over the past month. And if anybody kind of needs a structure, it's the way I find quite helpful is by saying, you know, who you help, what it is you do, how you do it, and then sort of why. So in my example, it's who I help. So I help entrepreneurs, for example. What do I help them do? Well, I help them engage their audiences. How do I do that? Well, I design products. And then what is the sort of impact of that? It's like, well, and this is where I used to like really flourish and embellish and use all those very typical like UX designer words. You know, like I design intuitive, human-centered design, all these things. But then I boiled it down to, well, I make things that just work. Like it just works. you're using it and you don't even realize, like Uber. We can all use Uber even when we're, drunk or tired or what, not really looking at it. It's one of, that's the kind of thing I was trying to say. And I was like, right, well, it just works.
That's brilliant. Really is. And using that structure is, it is, at the end of the day, we know it to be true. Simple is always better, but it's true. And I think this really works. And you're so right. Things that just work. That's what your clients want. And that's what people want from you. Right. So, very nice.
Exactly.
Very good.
I'll just put it in the margin for anybody who might want to note it down. Alrighty, so I'm going to have a little intro. I'll have a call to action, which is probably going to be view my work. Keep it obvious, keep it simple. And let's have a look at maybe showing a preview of my favorite project, something like that. Or, typically, okay, I know this is called team sections, but it's about, looking at these and letting your imagination kind of run with it. So don't think that, okay, you can only use this for, a team page. This could really easily be thumbnails of your portfolio project. And you click into it and it goes to the project page. And then that's already just saved you like a real fair bit of time thinking about it, doing the repeat grid. Oh, we love a repeat grid, so we can always do it. Even this is quite interesting because you could add an image and then, give all those details that we were talking about for the project. So putting in the title, who it was for, tagging it, tagging it with what it is, maybe a link to view it if it's something that's live. And then that quick little intro you can use here as a way of getting somebody's attention and drawing them into clicking through to read more about it.
This is really where the action of designing kind of comes in, and the imagination portion of wireframing kind of blends. It's like, how do you want to showcase your own work, right? And how does that flow and feel like as you're kind of scrolling through this? And using this wireframing kit is a great way to kind of just like go through those rapid fire iterations. But typically it's a great way to do it also on a stream, but typically it's like your own self doing it for hours upon end, just like playing with ideas. Like, this is the type of stuff that goes up on the wall and gets moved around, and you throw into a file and you don't let anyone see because 1,000 versions of the same screen, but here it is for you, which is, a great way to quicken the job. But
exactly.
I really like, yeah, they even have this. I was going to say that I really like how they've been doing these sectionings of things.
Yeah, it's so organized. I'm a huge lover of organized documents. I am. Okay, I know I haven't done it with the sitemap so much in the flowchart, but I'm a huge layer namer. I'm team name your layers.
Yeah,
anyone who knows me in chat, they know.
The chat definitely had. There was that hashtag came up in the chat earlier. Hashtag name your layers and hashtag name everything. Team name everything. Yeah, it's
definitely.
That's a skill unto itself.
Yeah.
Again, that's another one. That's like the copy question. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Like, there are two different camps. I'm excited for the day that we figure out a robot to do it for us. I can't wait for that day.
That would be pretty great. All right, let me group these together. Yeah, I just like things being organized. And it's a good habit to get into with XD, because if you then start going into prototyping and using auto animate, especially if things on the artboards that you're wanting to auto animate between are not named exactly the same, then it's not going to work. It's not going to connect and pick it up. So it is a good habit, to start doing.
Very, very good habit. Absolutely.
So I'd love to ask everybody in the chat what they usually put on their their home pages of portfolios. If they'd like to tell me.
Yeah. What's normally the first thing people see when they come into your portfolio? It's a great question. Yeah, is it a project? Is it a, some people start with a project. I feel like that's kind of a trend. Sometimes it's their own face, and sometimes it's just the description like we're going for here. Yeah, I guess that's the two things. Sometimes it's just a blurb of yourself, maybe some type of animation, maybe no photography of themselves, and it's just kind of their work showcasing. So many different ways to do it. I'm trying to remember mine right now to give an example. Pretty sure I lead with project. This project.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to dig for my me.
Oh, really interesting.
Yeah, I know. I have a lot of mine isn't finished either. I talk about portfolio project. Everything I've said is very also true to my own portfolio, which is like it's never finished to me.
Yeah, I feel that like 100%. I think it's one of the worst traits of being a designer is never being happy and never actually finishing something, because you'll finish it and then be like, no, this needs to change, that needs to change, I've changed my color scheme now.
Yeah.
Always
something. Wow. You know how many really great sound bites and quotes are gonna come have I pulled from this? Truly the one about not being happy. That's the one thing about being a designer. So true. Yeah. It's a thing. So true. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it's very true.
It is.
Chris has a cool question about any tips around making your portfolio work on both desktop and mobile. Maybe in the early part of creation, or just, I wonder, Chris, if you can kind of elaborate more, but kind of what are your thoughts right off the bat?
Yeah, I mean, if you're creating obviously, like a website, depending on what form your portfolio is taking, because it doesn't have to be online. I think there's a lot of pressure for everyone to have online portfolios. You could create it and it can be an XD prototype. You don't even have to host it somewhere, That's almost like having a free portfolio. Just going to leave that nugget there for anybody to pick up. It's a link people can click on, right? I think when it comes to that, I guess it also depends on what it is you want to show. If you feel that people are going to be looking at your portfolio on a mobile device, which when we think about it, designing mobile first is the best practice to be in when you're talking about web design. So if you can design it in a way that whatever you're building it in, whether you're coding it or maybe you're using one of the web hosting services like Squarespace or all of those things. I don't want to throw out so many names. Don't get in trouble.
You can throw them out, Chad, if you want. If Chad has a bunch, if you have a bunch you work in, let us know. But we won't throw them all out right here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is a really great thing to do, because somebody might be, well, in the previous world, I know when I was on the go as a consultant all the time, I definitely looked at things on my phone more than on my laptop, because it's just always in your hand.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely something to bear in mind that, there's, I can't think of the quote in the stats now, but there's, I'll tweet it later, but there's a really popular kind of quote stat type thing that says, there's such a high percentage of web traffic is all mobile and tablet, like device based, compared to desktop and laptop, like computer based. So it is something to be aware of. We're always on some form of device. We're not always sat at our laptops. So if you can do it, then I would advise you to, because especially if you're, I say especially, I don't want to say it in a way that anyone feels pressured again. But it's something that if you can do it, great. If you can't do it because you're not sure about it or you don't know, then again, that's fine as well. It's just something to maybe mention during, those initial interview stages, that it's something that you have to learn on your journey.
Right.
So we all start somewhere, and that's okay.
Interesting. Love that.
Yeah. Just looking around.
Yeah,
If there's anything else
it's interesting. Yeah, putting yourself in the user, the creating for and creating a portfolio. You know, yes, we are creating typically a web-based or a mobile-based, you know, experience, may I say. And thinking about it in terms of who your user is really fascinating. It's really like mind reels about the fact that could be a future employer, right? Like I said, like these and future teammates. And once you go in and you don't know exactly who those people are, you do, in a sense, it's you, but like isn't, and the number one rule of designing is not creating necessarily direct for you. So it's one of those things where your mind can go, definitely let your mind can go so many different ways while creating and trying to figure out, you know, is it better on mobile? Is it better for web? What should I do? Thinking about where are people going to see this and how are they going to access, and all important. But, you know, it's one of those things that can obviously, I've seen a lot of designers let that stall them. And I think there's a lot that can stall a designer, to be fair. There's a lot around design that is so much of putting yourself out there. But you know, at the end of the day, you know, just pushing forward in what you believe is the best way to showcase yourself is never going to be wrong, is the thing. Yes, it can be better at times, but showcasing who you are and how you want to showcase yourself, that's you. That's up to your decision. That's up to your discernment of how you want to be perceived. And like, that's nothing about that's wrong, right? That can't be wrong.
Exactly.
And so these are just tips. And this is how Fergie does it. And I will say they are awesome tips all around. Chris says, thanks for the tips.
More than welcome. Just play around with this. I'm not sure how I feel about it anymore, so bring it down to the bottom. Got my grids on to just make sure we're following some kind of rules and structure here. And this is just for anyone who maybe isn't familiar with grids and guides, but you can just click on your artboard and you get it in the inspector panel. And this grid that I have here with the kind of aqua stripes is a layout grid. So this comes from sort of web development, and you can set your column widths and your gutter spacing. I tend to leave it on the default. And then you could also have a square pixel grid if you are more comfortable with that. And I typically, again, work in a 8 pixel grid, which is super tiny, but allows me to do the different levels of sizing and detail that I might need. More for mobile apps though, for me, than and when we get to the mobile first design, than in web, because they're just, a web page is so huge.
Yeah.
So yeah. Right, I've got a few things I've thrown on here. Borrowed this and resized it. I'm just going to take out these social icons because I don't feel like I need those for my projects. This will be a view button, there'll be tags, this will be project name. And maybe the type of project it is. So like a website or something. I can tag it with UX and research and testing, or what it might be. And then I'm going to use repeat grid, which I'm sure everybody loves. It's definitely one of the first features I fell in love with.
Absolutely. It's still one of the best features out there, in my opinion.
Saves so much time and work, honestly. Actually, I feel like that's too busy, so I'm just going to take that off. But let's say, maybe this is our project. So we said we're going to do 4. So let me just pull this out to the 4th. And yeah, you can really simply have a, if you want to have a 1-page portfolio, like you can, but then dives down, has just the separate pages for the case studies themselves. Just looking at what I can pinch for like an about me section. but I don't think there was anything I liked.
Voodoo Val says we stand repeat grid. Yeah, I feel like that's the sticker set. That's the when they create swag for XD, it should just be like repeat grid. Like there should. Yes. We all know that's the favorite.
That would be amazing.
Norsh, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Do you price your work hourly or by projects? Any tips? Thanks. That's a little bit more. We're taking a different step here, but I think we're there in the stream.
Yeah, I don't mind. I actually go by sort of what's called value-based pricing. And what that means is that I price a piece of work depending on who the client is, because obviously a huge corporate firm, their budget will be very different to a smaller startup. And it's also something that not just budget-wise, it's not in a way that's who can I charge more money for. It's about what the work I do is, like what value that brings to that business or that company. For example, if we think about branding, creating Nike's new logo is something that they'd make a fortune off of. Whereas creating a life coach's logo, it's something that they need to be recognizable and to kind of carve out their space, but it doesn't necessarily bring them, the same sort of revenue. So that's what I do. I do value-based pricing or a day rate, depending on the kind of work it is, if it's a project or if it's a sort of ongoing thing. Those are the kind of models that I look at.
That's great. Thank you for answering that. I definitely wanted to, just plug away at those types of questions as we go on. I think maybe even tomorrow we can ask a couple more questions around, how you work and kind of those professional, I'm a consultant questions. Dominic also threw out some really great features that we love and we stand in XD. And who knows, maybe we'll see you tomorrow. I don't know. 3D Transform's a new one. I don't know if you've gotten to play around with some 3D Transform at all.
Yes, it was great fun.
So there's cool stuff going on, but I think still Repeat Grid is going to be everyone's favorite. Because I still haven't seen that be, I just haven't seen it be done so well anywhere else. So yeah, that's all I'll say there. So this has been, it's really great. And we're really coming to you. Honestly, so much has happened in the past 10 minutes. There's so much going on. Although you really like shelled out this with this wireframing kit.
That's the joy of it. Honestly, it's not about kind of working really hard at something really simple. It's about working sort of smarter and faster. So this is our homepage. We have a little intro, we have some project previews, and then a little about you section, and you can move these around as to whatever your preference might be. Yeah,
I love it. I love ending with the about me. I like the structure of that. We like the tag center, having the tags throughout the projects themselves and having the kind of center. That's going to be really great. I think we're almost at the end here, and if anybody is, coming out right now, thank you for joining us just in general. Fergie will be here tomorrow. Again, day 2, very excited. And it'll be 12 p.m. Pacific. Obviously everyone's time zones are different. But tomorrow we'll be finishing up putting final touches on things. Checking out portfolio websites, maybe kind of looking at, maybe we'll even get to see the actual portfolio website of that you'll be kind of putting up there. So don't forget to stay tuned for tomorrow and come through tomorrow again. We can't wait to hang out again. If anybody is going to stick around, there's a daily creative challenge happening immediately after the stream. and then we'll start again with Paul Tranny tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. But at the end of the day, this has been really a really awesome stream. And we started with some incredible inspiration and work. And I was wondering if we kind of just go through what we've learned today with you.
Yeah, of course. So what we've done today is we've put together a sitemap, and I'm going to zoom in here so that everybody, if you want, you can screenshot it, go for it. I've kind of put a structure together here of how to best form your case studies and how to structure your work so that you're really telling the story of what you've done to, not to the extreme, but to cover kind of all of your bases, to cover all of the key interests that a hiring manager or a recruiter might be looking for, or a design manager or a teammate. So these are really, kind of, I'd say, this is my magic sauce that I'm letting you all run away with. So we've looked at structuring each of the case studies. We know that we will do maybe about 4 of them tomorrow. That you don't really need more than 6 in your portfolio. We know that we need to show a bit of a range and not just samey. And then we created a flowchart as well. So this is just a bit of a how our users might be interacting with our site and how they might be moving through everything, so that we can think about where they might get lost or where they might sort of fall off or want to close or navigate away. We want to try and avoid that. We want them to stay on our site and look at our work. So this is just about thinking ahead and thinking about the structure and planning for that, really. So that's why we've got our flowchart here.
Very cool. Very cool. And we also got into some really, we also wireframed very quickly. Just came out of, just did that, which was awesome. We use a wireframing kit that Adobe XD offers. We also should also mention really we definitely used a plugin this entire time that had to do with really whiteboarding or the essentials we needed, and that was the whiteboarding plugin. Yes. So we recommend everybody using that when they want to get it going, get their ideas flowing. But that's thank you again for taking us through that. We had some technical difficulties at the start, but we trudged forward and we made it happen. We really have a great foundation for going into tomorrow. And so I'm excited to hang out again. And we're really going to have fun hanging out with you guys too in the chat. Thanks again for joining us on Adobe Live, and we'll see you tomorrow.